and actually hear why I have some of the takes that I have, they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense, right? That's pragmatic, right? But I thought you had this worldview, but I'm able to kind of explain something. Yes, this is why I have this worldview, but this is how I arrived at that worldview, and I explain it. Like, I'll give you an example. One of the things I get a lot of slack for from conservatives is I tell guys, look, before you get married, you need to have a couple things in place. 35 years old, making 6 figures a year, 6 months to 12 months of savings, be in shape in the gym, and have sex with 50 women. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, whoa, man, you're telling people to go ahead and get laid. That's super anti-Christian, anti-Muslim, Abrahamic religion here. But when I explain to them, I'm like, look, I'm not saying that 50 number is a hard set number. What I am saying is that that'll put you in a position where you understand women, where you can navigate the dating marketplace from an informed perspective, and you won't get taken to the cleaners. Because the reason why I dispense this advice is because Christianity, religion, the church, Islam, the mosque, whatever it may be, all of these religious barriers that used to kind of keep relationships in check and ensure that people kind of stuck it out, these guardrails are gone. We don't have shame anymore. Feminism is at its peak. It's only going to get worse. Liberalism is, kind of taking over, right? We're fighting back slowly but surely. But the reality is that when men get into long-term relationships and get married, we're the ones with all the skin in the game, not them. So I want guys to go into the situation like, look, I believe in a nuclear family. I think it's beautiful to have children. I think it's great to get married. I just want guys to go into that situation knowing this is what you're getting involved in. Right. This is what you can lose. And let's hedge let's mitigate risk. Let's not get married with the state involved. Let's do it in the church. Let's do it in the mosque. Let's, remove incentives for women to divorce you and destroy your life and take your children from you. So that's why I have that worldview where I just want you to understand women properly so she can't leverage sex against you for compliance. Like, oh, babe, you're not going to get none unless you take out the trash. Right. Any guy that's in a situation like that is doomed to fail.
Yeah. So I get the message that you have for men.
Yeah. That's just one example, but there's, that was the easiest one I could think of off the top of my head, that people misinterpret my advice.
Yeah. Well, listen, when you give advice, people are going to criticize it, and not everybody's going to agree with everything, which is fine. And for the most part, I'm a guy that likes to judge people on the merits of what they're saying, not necessarily, if I like them or not. And I think that's also something that lacks in our country is critical thinking skills.
Yes.
Is can I listen to someone who may have strong opinions, and can I take what I need and leave the rest that I don't agree with? Stuff like that. But more importantly, before we get to this shocking update from Democrats, because I'm not too sure everybody knows this, but Myron here used to actually work in HSI, right?
Yeah. So
why don't you tell people what that is?
Sure, yeah, I can explain it because DHS does a horrible job of marketing themselves. So I used to work for an agency called Homeland Security Investigations. And to kind of really make this make sense, so we'll start from the top. So you got Department of Homeland Security, which, Kristi Noem is the head of right now. Then underneath that, you have ICE, or Immigration Customs Enforcement. And this is where things get confusing. So from ICE, it splits off into 2 different agencies. Splits off on one side to enforcement removal operations, and then to the other side, HSI, or Homeland Security Investigations. On the ERO side, these are the guys that are the deportation officers. They're actually taking these illegal aliens and deporting them physically. They're the ones bringing them in front of immigration judges, et cetera. Because in the immigration world, there's an entire different legislative system that deals with immigration law, or the INA. And then on the HSI side, these guys do the criminal investigations. These are the guys like myself where, you're investigating drug trafficking, you're investigating human trafficking, you're investigating terrorism, you're investigating gun running and all the other things of smuggling goods in and out. You're also enforcing immigration, people that are smuggling illegal aliens, people that are doing document benefit fraud, all of these different things. So ERO deals with the immigration side only, typically from a administrative standpoint. Yeah. And then HSI deals with it from a criminal standpoint. And also branches into other violations because ICE used to be INS, Immigration Naturalization Service, and U.S. Customs Service. And what happened after 9/11 and the Department of Homeland Security Act, Bush combined them into one, and then that's how we got ICE. And then both authorities were absolved. But what this does, though, and a lot of people don't know this, HSI actually has almost more, I think they enforce more statutes than even the FBI. Because when you have both immigration and customs, you have an enormous amount of authority. And they can basically investigate anything. And that's what I did. For several years. You
were stationed where? You said you worked at the bottom of Texas, right?
I started my career actually 3 hours from here, Laredo, Texas.
Wow.
And I remember Austin always has a special place in my heart because I remember a guy I had been looking at got arrested in Travis County, and I drove all the way from Laredo to pick him up. And he had been a guy that was a part of a big conspiracy case I did. Wow. What's known as an OCF case, or Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force investigation. approved by the DOJ. So they picked him up in Travis County, and I was excited because this was a guy that was a little higher up in the totem pole. But yeah, I started my career here in Laredo, and then I transferred to the Miami field office.
Wow, that is wonderful. That's crazy. You know, I don't think a lot of people knew that about you, but obviously I knew.
People just think I'm like a racist, which that's true too, but I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Okay. So what I want to do is get into some of these clips that we were able to gather today that came out because of your expertise working with ICE. I think your perspective is unique. I think a lot of people are going to get value from that. And so where we're going to go first is this clip from Robert Garcia, Democrat out of California, which we know that's a thing in and of itself. And here he is announcing the Master ICE Tracker.
Mayor Bass, I'm grateful for your support and your leadership. Mayor Bass and I talked just last week, and she is committed to ensuring that every single moment of terror, of injustice that happens here in Los Angeles and really across the country is recorded, and that we take note of every instance where people are being harmed. And so today I want to announce that the House Oversight Committee Democrats are going to record and create an investigative unit here to ensure that in Los Angeles, we look into every single brutal misconduct that ICE is committing. Oh. Yeah. And it's not just going to be in the House. I'm also excited to announce that the Senate and Senator Blumenthal has agreed that the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations will join the Oversight Democrats to ensure that this is being done in conjunction with both the House and the Senate.
Yeah, I mean, that is just pure evil if you ask me. So they basically want to legislate this, I guess, program to track, surveil, and essentially, I guess, legally dox ICE officers while they're just trying to do their constitutional duty. So I know you worked in the field at one point in time. So, like, how dangerous is this really for these officers?
Extremely dangerous. You know, this is a violation of, you know, I know the code off the top of my head, 18 U.S.C. 111, which is, if I'm not, you could check it real quick. I'm pretty sure it's 18 U.S.C. 111, which is impeding a law enforcement officer or assaulting a law enforcement during the course of their duties. This is a violation of that statute. And here's the other thing, too, I want to talk about when it comes to immigration, and I can kind of explain this to your audience. This is a Democrat-created problem. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by this is immigration has been a dirty word that many presidents, both Republican and Democrats, by the way, kind of didn't want to touch, because immigration is kind of like a catch-22. If you enforce it, you're looked at as a monster and evil. If you don't enforce it, you're looked at as like weak and not, you know, creating strong borders.
Right.
And the problem is that for all these years, what presidents have typically done is they've kicked the can down the road when it comes to immigration. So what they'll do is they'll have Border Patrol agents stationed on the southwest border, catch, release. Sometimes they NTA them. Sometimes they give them an expedited removal and remove them from the country, which is the most ideal. But no president has done interior enforcement. And this is extremely important, because what Donald Trump basically did, and I commend him for this, right? I've been critical of Trump in the past, but I actually do think what he's doing when it comes to immigration is fantastic. And I don't think the American people appreciate it, might not understand it or appreciate it enough, because they might not understand how immigration works. So let me kind of quickly go through this. So when people come through the border, right, and they're apprehended, what ends up happening is they get something called an ER or an NTA. When Trump was in office the first term, they were getting the ER, expedited removal. The reason why this is good is because within 2 weeks, that illegal aliens get deported right back to Mexico. They're not necessarily taking bed space like that. They're getting removed within a couple of days. And that obviously saves the taxpayer quite a bit of money, because it costs a lot of money to house these guys, especially in ICE facilities. When Biden came in, he kind of did away with that. And what he started doing was giving these guys notice to appears. And a notice to appear is exactly what it sounds like in a regular thing where you get a notice to appear. But in the immigration court, it's a bit different, because now you got an alien without status, and they're allowed to come into the country, and they're kind of in limbo.
Right, just waiting for
a court date. But the problem with that is that the immigration court system is backed by like 5, 6, 7 years. And then what ends up happening with these people is they don't really have real documentation. They say they're going to one address, they move, they leave, they go in the wind. So by the time they're served, hey, you need to show up for immigration court, they're nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Now, this happens all the time. And what happens is a lot of these aliens flee to these sanctuary cities. And for those, I know me and you know what it means, but for your audience, a sanctuary city is essentially a city where illegal aliens are able to live there, work, and not have to really worry about immigration officials because these
avoid
cities,
accountability.
Absolutely. Because the entire state, governing body, whether the mayor, the police chief, et cetera, they typically will have we don't deal with immigration standpoint.
Right.
And not only do we not deal with immigration, we're not even going to assist the feds when they lodge a detainer against an illegal alien. We're not going to even assist when they go out to try to do a roundup and pick people up. This has been going on for decades.
Yeah.
So what's basically happened is we've been bleeding at the border. Then these people come in, they overstay, how long they're supposed to stay, or they just go out in the wind.
Yeah.
And that's just the illegal aliens. We're not even talking about all the document benefit fraud. We're not talking about all the people that come here on J1 visas, F1 visas, H1Bs, et cetera, that come in legally and then overstay their visa. There's millions of them as well. So
like what was his name? The superintendent out of Iowa.
Yeah, and that's how crazy. They arrested a cop also that didn't have status. So this is how comfortable people have gotten with coming here, whether legally or illegally, overstaying, not having status to be able to be here. Right. So what Trump is doing, where he's doing interior enforcement, this is unprecedented. I've never seen a president have the balls to actually go into these sanctuary cities, go into these major U.S. cities, and actually pick up people that have been here for years. Now, some people say, oh, well, this is messed up. They've been here for 10, 20 years, 30 years. We're already going to deport them now. They have family here. Well, how did you not figure out your immigration status during these decades that you're here? What's wrong with you? But that goes to show how complacent and entitled a lot of these illegal aliens are, where they feel like, oh, I made it in here, I'm here, I don't deserve to be deported. President Trump's the first president to actually enforce immigration, not just from a border standpoint, but more namely a interior standpoint, which is one of the big problems. And last thing I'll say here and land the plane, a lot of people say, oh, well, Obama deported more illegal aliens than Trump. Well, we need to be able to analyze that data and realize that when Democrats are in office, more aliens try to cross into the border because they got a better chance.
Yeah.
So by nature of doing that, they're going to get apprehended more and sent back more because they're trying to come in more.
Yeah.
But with Donald Trump, yes, the deportations might be fewer, but he closed the border and he's doing interior enforcement. It's not as easy to catch illegal aliens in the interior because of all the backlash you're getting, as we're seeing now with these states. Mm-hmm. But it's the first time that we've been able to do it, so that's why they're getting so much pushback. But this is absolutely ridiculous that they're trying to do this in California. It's why it's a failed state. And this is 100% a crime.
That's why we moved.
Yeah, exactly. This is a violation of 18 U.S.C. 101, which is the criminal code. So yeah, this is totally illegal what they're trying to do.
Yeah. I